DD, a longer lockdown, do you reckon it's inevitable?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We're hearing that the ministers met last night, something between 3 and 7 days, and we'll be told this morning. We just need certainty. We just need to know what we're planning for. One caller I took to my show this week has a wedding this weekend. That's just one person. And when you think of all the people involved in the wedding, the flowers, the catering, the venue, the knock-on effects of this lockdown are just devastating for people. The uncertainty is part of the problem with it. And people here are incredibly annoyed. I was annoyed yesterday with our Health Minister, Martin Foley, blaming this outbreak on South Australia. Now, we know that the man who returned here from the South Australian quarantine is probably it's all been linked back to there genomically, so we know that is the cause of the outbreak. But Martin Foley actually called it the South Australian outbreak. He's just handballing it. As though he thinks this is one big giant game of origin, state of origin game.
We've just been talking about it this morning, watching that press conference yesterday, and there were sort of bits of moments where they were joking, and you know, from a different state, being outraged by that when you've got people in lockdown, businesses who don't know what's going to happen next week. And Matt, you've got this entire state in lockdown. You've got 7 million people when the cases are all in the city. Do you think that's fair, and can you understand why regional Victoria is cranky?
Yeah, they've got every right to be cranky, Ali. I just cannot understand why governments can't look at the template of the New South Wales government and adopt that. Yes, the Victorian outbreak's concerning, but at the height of the Northern Beaches outbreak before Christmas, there were 30 cases on one day, almost 3 times what we've seen in Victoria. And Gladys Berejiklian did not put her whole state into lockdown. She managed that on a hotspot, localised basis and got the state through it. But I've never seen a bigger bunch of panic merchants than the Victorian government. They're out there calling the disease a beast today, and that's not a medical term, and they're saying they've never seen transmission like it. Well, how could they have? They ran their testing and tracing through fax machines last year. They don't know how the hundreds of thousands of cases last year were transmitted. They've got no idea. And if they could just be more sensible here and adopt the hotspot definition that the National Cabinet has done, we could have sensible restrictions where there are cases, but let business go on in the vast swathes of regional Victoria where there are absolutely no coronavirus cases right now.
Yeah, I don't think there was any need for that kind of language yesterday. I think it just scares people, and people are already scared enough. And we saw amid all of this, of course, we've still got thousands of aged care residents and workers who are still not vaccinated. I thought this was shambolic yesterday, watching the aged care minister, Richard Colbeck, admitting in Parliament he still didn't know how many had been given the jab. Just take a listen.
You have been unable to roll out this vaccination program for residents or staff in aged care along the lines that it should have been done.
Well, Senator, you can get your Facebook moment. That's fine.
I'm not asking after 655 people died last year.
Dee, the minister and his advisors, they failed to answer the most basic questions yesterday. What did you make of that?
Oh, well, I was annoyed by that, and I'm annoyed by the fact that we don't have all our aged care workers and people in aged care vaccinated. We had here one case where a worker had worked between 2 aged care centres, which again should not have happened, and I was shocked by that. Look, I do think we have an issue in aged care where a lot of elderly people towards the ends of their lives are reluctant to have the vaccine, and that's understandable, but the workers should at least all be done. And that worker who had gone between 2 aged care centres, apparently on the day the vaccinations were done, she was on a personal leave day. So why wasn't that followed up, and why wasn't she then vaccinated? So at least we've got a chance of stemming the outbreak if it is in aged care.
Matt, is Richard Colbeck up for the job? It didn't sound like it yesterday. Should he go?
Well, Ali, yesterday is a thing called Senate estimates, and there are all the officials there from his department, obviously, those figures that weren't available and are not recorded like that. So that's
how do they not know that stuff, Matt?
Well, the figures I've seen, and I don't get all the information, of course, that the minister would, but the figures I've seen are reported on an aged care home basis, not just workers per se, but also the residents that DD was speaking about, and about 350,000 have been vaccinated across those sort of facilities. Now, yes, there's been delays in the vaccine rollout, but there's a bit of a myth emerging here that somehow the vaccine stops transmission. It does not. Vaccination does not equal no transmission. And we've seen that.
No one's ever said that though, Matt. And this is what we heard from politicians yesterday. Oh, it doesn't stop it. That doesn't matter. They're 1A. They should have been front of the queue, and you've still got residents in aged care and frontline workers who have not had the vaccine.
They are front of the queue. That is absolutely right. But we have had delays.
Have you had yours, Matt?
We've had delays.
Have you had your jab,
I'm not,
Matt?
I'm not front of the queue, so I'm way down the back and up there in regional Queensland. But I'll line up and get it when it's available. But there have been delays. We've been upfront about that. It would have been much better, of course, not to have the export restrictions imposed by Europe. We wish that the issues with AstraZeneca were not exposed. But having those delays, what we've got to do is just work together now to get it rolled out as quickly as we can. The number of vaccinations is rising exponentially, and that's positive, and I'm confident we'll get there sooner rather than later.
Well, Queensland doesn't reckon it's going to happen. They're now saying, front page of the Courier Mail, that we will fix the Fed vaccine fiasco. They're going to do it themselves because, according to them, you guys have botched it.
Well, this is from the government that only a few months ago had failed to vaccinate their frontline health workers and partly led to the Brisbane outbreak. So it's a bit hypocritical for them to now be throwing mud about aged care centres when they didn't do the same in their own hospitals just a few months ago. And Queensland, can I note, is also the state with the lowest utilisation rate of the vaccines they have. They've never properly explained why. They've only used about 64% of their vaccines when Victoria and New South Wales are well around 80%. That makes no sense. So maybe Queensland will finally start using its vaccines. That'll be a positive out of all of this.
Yeah, look, we just need to get them all vaccinated and get it done very quickly. I still can't understand why it wasn't done months ago. I do want to talk about these pictures on the front page of today's Daily Telegraph. These are sisters Tatiana and Mia. They're aged 3 and 5, appearing at Australian Fashion Week in full Gucci designer gear. Now, they've got something like 178,000 followers on Instagram, and it's we're hearing the phrase kidfluencers. Dee, what did you make of this one?
I think they're adorable. I had a look at their Insta account. Their content is highly appropriate for their age. And I think this is smart business. And I know a lot of people might agree, but I feel like influencing is the new rock and roll. So parents disagree with it, but the kids are into it. It is the way of the future. Look, their parents are obviously behind it and they can make a lot of money out of this. Influencing is worth a lot of money these days, as long as the kids and the parents are prepared to deal with any backlash. But there is a simple solution to that. Just shut the account down if it goes pear-shaped. So I think it's smart. I think they're setting the kids up for a good future because it's not going to go away.
I was jealous of all their fancy clothes they were wearing. Matt, your thoughts on this one?
Well, I suppose this is something that can be managed really well or managed really badly, and the kids do look absolutely cute, and I'd follow them if I use Facebook, Instagram. Sorry, I'm not up with all that. But look, you got to be very careful in these situations. I think with kids that age, they're very impressionable, and I hope they get time just to be kids. You wouldn't want them working full time and this sort of thing.
No, very true. Well, we have had plenty of people at home write in and with their comments about this one. So we had Sonia writes, let them be children and enjoy their childhood. Why the rush to make them grown up? Caleb says, if they like doing it, why not let them? So keep those comments coming in. We're going to have the girls and their mum and dad on the show in the next hour. Dee, everything crossed today. Obviously, we don't think it's going to be good news for you guys. The lockdown's going to be extended. I guess the big question is what happens to regional Victoria, but we're all with you. Thanks, guys.